Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Happy New Year. Welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart, and I am the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where I share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery. And today's show, I am going to share my advice and support for all of you out there that may be suffering with addiction or celebrating recovery. I get questions all the time, not only from my clients, but from people sending me emails and writing things to me, asking me questions about coaching and asking me questions about what it's like to be coached by the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. So in today's episode, the beginning of the year in 2025, I am going to give you an insight as to what it's like to be coached by the Pushy Broad from the Bronx and show you the differences between coaching and therapy. And I'm going to answer important questions that you have sent me about addiction and recovery that bridge all walks of life, from personal problems to relationship problems to how you can help your loved ones suffering from this. If you have a question this morning, I will answer them live on the air, in addition to the questions that have been sent to me by email. So if you want to pick up the phone, it is 800-930-2819. Ask the Pushy Broad, and I will answer your questions today on the air for the next 30 minutes. That's 800-930-2819. So let's start from the beginning. People want to know a lot of different things about recovery and early recovery. So my producer, Jessica, this morning is going to start giving me a list of those questions so we can answer them one at a time. Jessica, what do you have for me?
Sure, absolutely. The first question is, how do I deal with cravings in early recovery?
That's a really good question. I can tell you some very positive things. Understand this. I have 39 years clean and sober. I still get cravings. If you have one day clean and sober, or if you have 39 years in recovery, you're still going to get cravings. This is the important thing to understand. I need you to acknowledge the craving. I tell all of my clients that you have to start this inner dialogue. You have to say to yourself, okay, here comes my craving. And then we know, science tells us that a craving will last anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes in its intensity. That means you're going to think, I want it, I want it, I want it. But I need you to understand it's for a very short time. So in that time span that the craving is here and you feel like you can't get over it, the first thing I need you to do is distract yourself. Do anything else. Read a book, go outside, watch television, take a drive, call a friend, call the Pushy Broad, your coach. Cravings are something that can be managed from craving to craving. You have to distract yourself. It's impossible to think of two things simultaneously. So if you understand that cravings are only 3 to 5 minutes, then distract yourself for the next 3 to 5 minutes. Trust me, it works. It works for the Pushy Broad. It works for my clients. It will work for you too. Next question, Jessica.
Okay, I think this is a good follow-up question to that. What should I do if I relapse?
That's a great question. Everybody thinks that relapse is part of recovery. The Pushy Broad is not a fan of saying that. I don't believe that relapse is necessary to be a part of recovery. However, this is the first thing I need you to know. If you relapse, you do not lose your recovery, meaning you do not lose all the things that you have learned about recovery. All of the things that keep you clean and sober didn't just all of a sudden go out of your head. Those lessons are still learned. You may have lost your clean date, but you didn't lose your recovery. You have to understand that there is a big difference between relapse and a slip. A slip is something that happens at a random situation. You go to a party and there's alcohol around, or somebody's passing a joint, and you decide, okay, I'm going to do it this one time. And then the next day you open your eyes and you get some support, and you go to your coach, or you go to a meeting, or you decide you're going to stay clean and sober. So what you experienced was a slip, not a full-blown relapse. And that's okay, because you know how to get back on track. A relapse is where you take yourself out for days or weeks or months, and then understand it means that you need more help. Not that you're a failure, not that you have failed at something, but you don't yet quite understand how wonderful it is to be in recovery. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. So don't beat yourself up. Shame and guilt are wasted emotions. Get back there and say, I have relapsed. I haven't lost all the things I've learned about recovery, and I'm going to get back on track. And one of those ways is to get the Pushy Broad as your coach. So go to my website, ellen@pushybroadfromthebronx.com or pushybroadfromthebronx.com. Sign up for a 30-minute free session, and let me see if I can help you. Jessica, next question.
How can I rebuild my relationships after my recovery process has begun?
I love that question. That's really fantastic. Everybody decides that they're going to work on themselves in the recovery process. This is a very personal thing, right? We all want ourselves to get better, but we're so worried about losing our relationships in the process. And you know what? Maybe some of us do lose our relationships in the process. But if you decide that you want to rebuild your relationship, you have to understand that that means first rebuilding you, and being honest in that approach, and being honest in the fact that you are vulnerable, that you know that this is a one day at a time situation. You know, many of us are in 12-step recovery, but many of us are not. But some of the principles of 12-step are extremely important to take in, because those cliches actually work. Like mindfulness. Mindfulness means that wherever my feet are, that's where my brain has to be, which means I am living in the here and now, right here, right now, which means any relationship that I take on, I have to focus on in the present. I have to talk and communicate in the present. I have to try to the best of my ability to be kind and generous and considerate, and understand that it's going to take a long time to rebuild. But one day at a time, clean and sober is always the best way to go. Jessica, next question.
How do I avoid situations that might lead to a relapse?
Especially in early recovery, I tell every one of my clients to pre-plan for everything that's happening to you. You go out to a party. You're in college. You're going out to a situation where people are going to be drinking and drugging, and you're in early recovery. I need you to do a couple of things. Number one, decline the invitation. That's my first preference, okay? The Pushy Broad will tell you, do not put yourself in the line of fire. Why would you do that? But if you think that you can't, I get that too. So the second plan of attack is to find a sober buddy. Don't go by yourself. Go with somebody else. The more the merrier, that understands that clean and sober is part of the experience. That's number two. Number three, have an exit strategy. Tell yourself you'll go for an hour or two, and you and that buddy will leave. Or you turn around and tell your friends, you know what? I'm going into a situation. I'm only going to be here for an hour or two, and then I'm going. So take your own car and get out of there. because you cannot play with fire. People think they can play with fire and they don't get burned. In recovery, every single time there's a trigger, every single time there's an opportunity to drink or drug, we are always faced with that fire. So, how strong do you think you are? Even the Pushy Broad isn't that strong. The Pushy Broad puts plans in place. You need to do the same. Next question, Jessica.
This is a good one. Healthy ways to manage stress without turning to substances.
So we don't want to replace one addiction for another. That's what we do, right? We get this compulsion that we want to drink, we want to drug, we want to do things that are not good for us, and we want to do it over and over and over again, right? That's what we do. So we do have to replace that craving, that addiction with other things, and then make sure that that doesn't become an addiction as well. However, accountability. Am I accountable to myself? Do I take care of myself and am I responsible for my actions? Structure. Do I have structure in my day? Do I do the things I need to do to make my life a situation that I enjoy living in? And balance. Can I balance my life? Do I have the certain amount of work? Do I have a certain amount of play? Do I have a certain amount of mind, body, and spirit healing? Things like exercise in my day, eating the right things, nutrition, meditation, deep breathing, pursuing a hobby, pursuing my relationships, seeking support. All of those things outside of my cravings is what I have to pursue in life, living my life that is not ruled by my addiction. There are a plethora of things for us to do, one step at a time. Come to the Pushy Broad. Pushy Broad from thebronx.com. I'm giving free consultations in 2025 for 30 minutes. If you have a question about anything we're talking about today, please call me at 800-930-2819 on the air. I'll be happy to answer your questions, or email me at ellen@pushybroadfromthebronx.com. I think we're going to get a coaching session from the Pushy Broad once a month so you guys can understand what it's like to really feel great about recovery. Jessica, anything else for me?
Another question, how can I improve my self-esteem in recovery?
Self-esteem, I think, always becomes a lifelong process, right? Every single day we have to tell ourselves that we love ourselves and that we care about ourselves. In recovery, we say we have to keep the focus of attention on ourselves, right? Some people may think that's selfish. I just think that's self-centered. I think we need to be self-centered. You know, in recovery, we talk about putting our oxygen mask on first before, right? In the aircraft, the flight attendant says, put your oxygen mask on first before you help the people next to you, before you help your children, before you help your spouse. Why is that? Because if you didn't, you would not be here. If you don't take care of yourself, there is no way you can probably take care of another human being. You can't do it properly at all. So what do you do for self-esteem? You, number one, get in touch with the fact that recovery is no small feat. Being proud of being clean and sober. Being proud of understanding that you now can control your decision makings, how you feel about life, that you get a true indication of who you are and what you want is something to be immensely proud of. Reflecting and telling yourself that this accomplishment alone is the greatest accomplishment of your life. And then everything else will come later. Trust the Pushy Broad. My clients do. Jessica, what else do you have?
So this one takes us to the professional realm. The question is, can I repair my professional reputation after recovery?
It really depends upon what you've done, doesn't it? there is a possibility that the steps that you walked before you got to recovery were fraught with all kinds of things that put you in a dark place. And there's nothing we can do about our past. We can acknowledge it, but we may not be able to repair it. We may not. Some things have to start with a clean slate. And that means proving that you are clean and sober. When we talk about repairing relationships, we always talk about one big word here, don't we? Trust. That's what it's all about. Number one, trust. I am sure that if you're in early recovery, the people around you are saying, how do I know I can trust you? I don't trust you anymore. Everything you said was a lie. How do I know this time it's going to be the truth? Yeah, I'm talking to you. You know what I mean. So the Pushy Broad says 2 words, 3 words. Trust is earned. It's earned. You can't just come back into a situation and expect everybody to say, okay, this is fine. You made a mess of everything before. You disrupted the family before. You got everybody in trouble. And on top of which, you may have almost lost your life and all of a sudden everything's fine because you said you want to be clean and sober. Doesn't work that way. It takes time and patience and effort and one day at a time, clean and sober. And that means you have to take that time and patience and understand that over time, you will get back the trust. Over time, you will earn that respect when you begin to respect everybody and everything around you. And if you have lost your job because of this, then you know not to do it the next time. I tell all of my clients, it is our job to make mistakes in life. That is our job. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody fails. We learn from all of those things. The trick is not to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. So if you lost your professional reputation in a previous situation, nothing's lost forever. You can get things back. Understand that it'll take more work than the first time around. Jessica, what have you got for me?
So speaking of taking more work, how do you build a support system?
Well, gratefully, in this country, the stigma of addiction is still here, but there are so many of us that are working on rebuilding and tearing down that stigma. And there are so many resources available to you. Every single month, twice a month, I give you resources from all kinds of people, from clinicians, from doctors, from therapists that you can reach out to for help. All you have to do is send an email to ellen@pushybroadfromthebronx.com or go to pushybroadfromthebronx.com and take that 30-minute session, and I will help you to find resources. There are 12-step groups. There are therapists. There are meetings all over for you to take the first step. But the first step, no matter what, is admitting that you need help. And I know so many people say to me, why is it so hard to ask for help? Have you thought about that? How many times have you said, I really want help, but I'm afraid to ask? Or you've said to yourself, I really want help, but maybe nobody will listen to me. Or I really want help, but I'm embarrassed to ask. Or I really want help, but if I ask for help, then I'm a failure. Then I couldn't do it myself. Here's the Pushy Broad. Nobody can do it alone. Okay? Nobody can do it alone. If I have to find out what's going on with something, if I have to learn something, it is outside of myself. I will research it. I will talk to therapists. I'll talk to doctors. I'll talk to clinicians. I don't have all the answers, and neither do you. So just think of it as I'm taking a new course. I'm learning new things. You may scroll on social media and learn things all the time. That's the same thing with addiction and recovery. I need you to learn new things. I need you to get out of your head and understand that there's a big world out there that's waiting to give you information that you don't already have. So get off the wheel, get off the cycle, and ask for help. Next question, Jessica.
How do I explain my recovery to children or younger family members?
Ah, that's a big deal. Every time I work with families, many things surface that are very, very common, really common. First, you would be surprised at how many young children and family members already know the difference between your drinking and drugging and your being clean and sober. So many people come to me and say, nobody knows that I'm drinking or smoking, or nobody knows that I have this addiction, whatever it is, whether it's drinking or smoking or gambling or a food addiction or shopping, nobody knows. Everybody thinks it's a secret. I've got news for you guys. It's no secret. Everybody around you knows. They've been tiptoeing around you for years. They're walking on eggshells because they probably tried to tell you in ways that you have ignored or denied for years. So, if you're now telling people that you're no longer drinking or drugging, most of your friends, including your family, are celebrating that. And the people that aren't celebrating that are the people that have problems drinking and drugging. Besides, when I walk into a room or if I talk about my recovery, I never say the words I'm an addict or an alcoholic. I just never go there. I go with the words, I am in recovery, because that's where I am, even if it's one day clean and sober. So what you think is a shameful thing is a positive thing, is a celebrated thing. And the more you embrace the fact that you're doing something for your health, for your life, for your community, for the world around you, for your children, for your husband or wife or your partner, you will understand and wear that recovery badge proudly, not in shame or guilt, but in accomplishment. What else have we got, Jessica?
What if my partner doesn't support my recovery?
There we go. If my partner doesn't support my recovery, the Pushy Broad says, bye-bye, partner. That's what happens. If your partner doesn't support your recovery, no matter what, as far as I'm concerned, it's a life and death situation. If you can stay clean and sober no matter what, that's great. But when you're faced with a partner that doesn't support it, first of all, I'd like to know why and work with that partner. And second of all, that is not someone that you share a core value with. So I need you to take a good, hard look at why that's the case. And maybe try to find somebody that thinks like you and supports you in your recovery. Jessica, we have time for maybe two more.
This is a good one. How can I stay motivated during early stages of recovery?
There are so many different ways to stay motivated. And one of those ways is getting a recovery coach like the Pushy Broad at pushybroadfromthebronx.com if you want to do that, or understanding that you can do anything you want in recovery that you've done before. Let's try to do something new. Let's learn something new. Let's take a course. Let's do something creative. Let's learn a new language. Let's learn how to cook. Let's go to a support group. Let's do things in sobriety. Go to sober events. Learn how to have a good time without drinking or drugging. All the things you did before without a joint or a bottle of beer in your hand. People think it's so much different. That part of life is no different, but how you feel in your head being clean and sober is vastly different. Be prepared to see life in a whole new way. Trust me, sobriety works. It's really cool. Jessica, one more.
Do you also work with family members of someone who is either in recovery or needs to be?
Without a doubt. Every single family member that needs help, every single family member that's navigating what it's like if someone's come out into early recovery, every single family member that needs answers, I will work with all of you. Pushy Broad from the Bronx.com. I will answer all of your questions, everything that you need, and work with all of those unsure and concerned parents, not knowing which way to go and feeling that everything is hopeless. There is always hope. As long as they're alive, there is always hope. So bring me your questions, send me your stuff, and call me at 800-889-1757. I'll answer your questions. I'm the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Thank you so much. Celebrate recovery, celebrate 2025, and I will see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening. And remember, everybody needs a little push.
From the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, New York.